Hey everyone, Slambo here, hopping on another contest. This one is for JT's Record Room. He asked us to show 5 of our favorite records and then show 3 movies by a certain director of your choice, hopefully with a good soundtrack. So I've got a few things here. I've got 5 records, and I've actually got 4 movies from my favorite director, one of my favorite directors, and then one bonus that I'm going to show at the end there as well. So starting off with the records, these aren't necessarily my all-time favorites, they're just my current favorites. And I'm picking these mostly because they have a connection back to when I was growing and just starting to listen to records. So the first one is Peter Sellers and Sophia Loren. This is a record of a mix of different songs on here. It's not from a specific movie, but it's the two of them getting together and doing a bunch of songs together. So on here, some of my favorite tracks, we've got Goodness Gracious Me, where Peter Sellers plays a psychiatrist or medical doctor. It's not quite clear which of the two he is, but Sophia Loren comes in saying that she is having all these maladies and the doctor trying to diagnose what's wrong with her. Then we've also got on side 2, track 1, Oh Lady Be Good. Peter Sellers does a sort of a scat type sing-along with that one. He doesn't really sing the lyrics, he just does it, just does the scatting to it. The interesting thing about that is that it's recorded at 16 RPM, but played back at 33 RPM. So of course that makes the pitch in his singing go up, just like with the Chipmunks or any other band to that nature. But the interesting thing about this one is that immediately after that song, there's a little bit of a track that describes, now people with one of those modern stereophone or stereophonic phonographs will instantly try to play this track back at 16 RPM. So of course, when I heard that, I had to do that because my turntable plays at 16 RPM. So that's one thing that I did on here on this. And then another song that I really like on here is Grandpa's Grave. Peter Sellers singing, They're removing Grandpa's grave to build a sewer. Peter Sellers and Sophia Loren is my first choice for the 5 records. Second choice is one that my sisters and I just kind of loved hearing. That's Wonderfulness by Bill Cosby. This one has tracks on it including, let's see, where is the track list? There it is, down at the bottom. Tonsils, The Playground, The Chicken Heart, Special Class, and a few others on here. There's 4 tracks on each side, and there's the back of it. And at the top here it shows some of the other characters that appear. Those are Bill Cosby's own characters. So he's listening to the radio, and this matches up with the Chicken Heart track, where it's a giant chicken heart that's about to eat the city. And he's listening to the radio and all of the reports of the giant chicken heart coming to eat the city. So the next one I've got is one that I showed in the March Madness bracket video that I did a while ago for Andy over at Next Play Records. This is Steve Martin, A Wild and Crazy Guy. And this one is one that is almost all stand-up except for one track on here. And that's his song King Tut. And there is a version that he did of this song on Saturday Night Live when he was one of the hosts. So go look that up. I'm sure it's on YouTube. I'd be surprised if it wasn't. So side 1, we've got I'm Feeling It, Philosophy, Religion, College, Language, Creativity in Action, and I'm in the Mood for Love. And on side 2, we've got A Wild and Crazy Guy, A Charitable Kind of Guy, an Expose, Cat Handcuffs, You Naive Americans, My Real Name, and it closes with King Tut, the song. So the 4th record that I want to show is another one that my sisters and I listen to a lot, and that's Monty Python's Contractual Obligation album. This one doesn't have the track listing on the outside. You have to pull it out and take a look at the inner sleeve. It's all listed on the inner sleeve right here. So this one we've got tracks including String, Never Be Rude to an Arab, I Like Chinese, The Medical Love Song, Farewell to John Denver, I'm So Worried, and Finland. And on side 2, which is labeled as The Other Side, We've got I Bet You They Won't Play This Song on the Radio, which was definitely one of my favorites. The Bookshop, Rock Notes, which is the sketch where Toad the Wet Sprocket gets their band name from, which I mentioned in another video back in April. We've got Muddy Knees, we've got Decomposing Composers, All Things Dull and Ugly, and it ends with A Scottish Farewell. So Monty Python's Contractual Obligation album is the next pick for me. And the fifth record that I'm going to show as my favorite is from my current favorite rock band, and that's, of course, They Might Be Giants. And this is Flood. This is the picture disc that I picked up about a year or so ago. This has another connection to growing up in Los Angeles. They Might Be Giants was the first actual rock band that I went to go see live, and it was their Flood tour. So this has another special meaning for me as well. So there's the 5 records that are favorites, and now it's on to the movies. And for the movies, for the director, my pick is Mel Brooks. He's got a very long filmography of movies that he's written, directed, and starred in. And if he's not starring in them, he's doing like Hitchcock and making cameos in them. I've got 4 of his movies in my collection on DVD, and we'll start with Young Frankenstein, one of our favorites with Gene Wilder. And this one has, all of these have lines that we end up repeating. From Young Frankenstein, one of our favorite lines, "Put the candle back!" And then we've got Blazing Saddles, a movie that definitely can't be made today. And as it says down here, never give a saga an even break. So this one actually is one of those fourth wall breakers at the end too. I'm not going to say what happens, but yeah, it's one to watch for. It goes into a completely different style at the end. And then we've got The History of the World Part 1. This one has another of our favorite lines in it. It's good to be the king. And then one that actually became one of our son's favorites, Spaceballs. I see your Schwartz as big as mine. And this one also has some fourth wall breaks in it right in the middle too. There's a scene in there where they have to go back and look at their security tape, and their security tape happens to be a copy of the movie Spaceballs. Mel Brooks and the crew put most of the songs onto this record, Mel Brooks' High Anxiety. This one is a compilation of songs from several different movies. So we've got songs from Young Frankenstein there, Silent Movie, there's Blazing Saddles, there's The Producers, and The 12 Chairs. So we've got on here, we've got from High Anxiety, we've got If You Love Me Baby Tell Me Loud. From The Producers, we've got Springtime for Hitler and Prisoners of Love. From The 12 Chairs, Hope for the Best, Expect the Worst. From Blazing Saddles, we've got The French Mistake and I'm Tired. From Young Frankenstein, we've got Puttin' on the Ritz. And from Silent Movie, we've got Burt Reynolds' House and the Silent Movie March. But that's not the only tie-in to the movies that I've got from Mel Brooks. I've also got this 12-inch EP, To Be or Not to Be. It's from another of his movies, from To Be or Not to Be. So on here we've got Mel Brooks and Anne Bancroft. And it's side 1, To Be or Not to Be, The Hitler Rap, Part 1. And side 2, To Be or Not to Be, Instrumental Mix, Part 2. And there they are, doing the Hitler dance down on the bottom there. Another one that definitely could not be made like it was then, today. So that's my favorite, one of my favorite directors, who I've got the largest collection of so far. But one of my absolute favorite movies is one that I actually do have the soundtrack for, and it's because the soundtrack came in the special collector's edition, and that is Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. And this one has a strong Los Angeles, San Diego area connection because the climax scene was filmed in San Diego Padres Stadium. So this one includes in it, there's a CD of the soundtrack, and there's the little poster and the disc. There's not a whole lot to this box, but also included in the box is a poster, and the poster is a replica of the original movie poster. Whoops, there we go. Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. And there was a sequel to this movie made, and there was also a follow-up cartoon, made-for-TV cartoon. So if you can find any of those, at least the sequel movie, if you've seen the original movie, the sequel movie is worth watching. The setting is that one of the tomatoes is a female protagonist, and she can switch between being human and being tomato. And then it goes into, and she's of course a teenager in high school, and it goes into all the kind of hijinks that teenagers get up to. So I pulled this one out of the shelf this afternoon and showed it to my wife and said, we need to rewatch this one again. So we'll probably be doing that this week sometime. So there we have it. That's my picks for 5 of my favorite records currently, and some movies from my favorite directors, and one of my absolute favorite movies of all time, Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. So there we have it. That's what I've got today. See you next time.